Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all can hear me okay. And thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to start quickly. I know folks are coming in from other sessions as well, so we'll give it a few minutes. I'll have an introduction about myself, and also we'll do a quick poll that I thought would be very interesting for the folks. Let me let me push that out so it shows up in your chat. Um, And then in the chat, if you see, you should probably see a poll that I'm interested to know, like how many AI initiatives actually get past the proof of concept stage. So I would love to see, based on all the buzz that's happening in the industry and how things are moving, AI is definitely catching up fast. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that while I quickly introduce about myself. So I'm Dinesh Sambamoorthy. I'm so excited and grateful to be here, and I'm a senior director at leading the digital technology for Dollar General, and I have all my work life has been spent with retailers like Walmart, Home Depot, Staples, and Meyer, and now Dollar General. So I come with a deep expertise in retail technology. In general, and also specifically more depth around e-commerce, digital marketing, and media network space, and I lead large teams across. So I have global experience, and also I'm very curious, and we do a lot of things about AI, and I'm also very curious and willing to learn from all of you as well on how AI is going to shape the world as we move forward. So in today's topic, as the polls are coming through, we'll talk about AI readiness, but I didn't want to keep it more conceptual, but we want to bring a couple examples that's actually happening in the industry. Like, what are some practical ways Walmart has done few, Delta has done few. So I want to combine what does it mean to be ready for AI, especially if you're an executive in an organization, or if you're a leader in an organization leading AI teams, and that is geared towards your own functional area, whether it be it digital or supply chain or warehouse management. Now I'm talking from a retail standpoint, but very specific to your industry as well. I think it's going to be key to understand what are the component it takes and how is industry actually doing it. So we'll go through few examples as well that's very specific. I would love to hear any questions you might have, or any thoughts or comments. Whether you agree with some of the frameworks that I have, or if you have a better way of proposing it, I would learn from that too. However, we do want to move forward with some of those specific use cases, and how those companies have done it. With that, I think the polls are coming in. Actually, most of them are right. The 75% of you said it's only 20%, which is totally true. So we'll move into that part, and I call it the pilot purgatory problem. Is what in based on the research that's done, the industry is seeing that 80% of the implementation are still in the proof of concept stage. It's mainly because organizations quickly want to get together in terms of, hey, everybody is doing something about AI. Especially executives are so pressured these days to show results through AI. However, the foundational work isn't fully complete, or it's probably still in progress. I do know that maybe the Gen AI and LLM is new to the industry. The concept of decision science and data and AI has been in the industry for a while, and a lot of companies have done those foundational work. However, it is not. Industry doesn't believe that it's still ready to be primed for an LLM or an agentic AI execution. So as we move through it, I want to call it like the four pillars of AI readiness. And every most of you might be familiar with people process technology, so we can talk about that. But the foundational for AI is data, and that's where I wanted to spend a little bit of time in terms of what do we see when we talk about data. Obviously, there is quality, but most importantly, and we'll see some examples of how Delta did it in terms of airlines industry, is there is a vast amount of data that cuts across multiple systems, or multiple areas of business. And how do you streamline it, not only maintain the quality of it, but actually make it more accessible? I think that's the bigger concept of whether it's accessible for multiple systems at the right time, at the right place, and can be presented in a way that we want to present to our audience. And obviously we'll delve into governance part of it, and the security, which is becoming very, very key aspect of it. Now, when we speak about governance, I think the industry is shaping up from not just the data governance part. There is a data governance, and then there is an AI governance that the industry is talking about, and a lot of companies are moving towards implementing that. And then there is also separation from being AI governance and the ML ops governance. So there's a lot of transformation and specificity that the industry is getting into, which never existed. If you think like 2-3 years back, it was generally called AI. And then in terms of technology, we talked about ML ops. Like when you have a machine learning model, or any kind of model that even leverages LLM, or your own proprietary model, how do you get into the phase of operationalizing it, and then scaling it towards it? And do you have the infrastructure and the integration and the testing in place to move through it? So this falls under the purview of core technology, and having the readiness towards it. Now, as we move towards people, this is core to me. A lot of organizations are moving forward so fast enough to prove the results, and in a good way. Everybody wants to be at the cutting edge, and move it, and also see through how things are working. However, the people aspect is the most important. First of all, does the org have the right talent in the place, and in the right role? Does the leadership truly believe in it? Is the leadership going to be an innovator in this space, or are they going to take a backseat, and watch how industry is shaping, and then be a fast follower? I don't There is not necessarily there is a right or wrong approach. It's about what your organization's culture and more strategic thought processes when adapting. So build the team, and build the talent pool, and skill sets, and everything according to your overall company's AI vision and strategy. And that leads us towards the processes, and this is where use case becomes very key, which we'll talk about how these companies did it. Is they went with the value first. So what's in it for the organization or for the business, and then tracing it back, which is pretty similar to any tech initiatives that folks would take on. So AI is no different from that. As much as it may start as a tech innovation, I think the power of AI is in the low cost model, or the efficiency, or the automation of doing it, whether it eliminates steps or eliminates people. However, the purpose of it still relies on the value of the use case, and what are the processes and the governance structure that's in place. So with that, we will move into Delta's readiness, right? Like, how did Delta do? So if you might have seen in the recent news that Delta is actually moving towards a very specific individual based pricing model. It's a very flexible option. Now, depending on who you are, they are going to charge you differently. Now, that may depend on so many factors, not just specific to you, but based on the supply demand concept, and based on a lot of other data that's coming in from the industry, in terms of what is the many people are even there are a lot of critics even saying that maybe they're going to look at affordability of a customer, and they're going to probably look at the timing, right? As it during the peak hours, they're going to look at the demand side of things. So there's a lot of data which we'll look into it, but Delta has recently launched it. It's going to be very interesting. I think there are a lot of pros in terms of technology, but there is also a lot of, from a consumer standpoint, there is also a lot of critics looking at it and saying, is it something that's really going to act in favor of a customer, or is it going to be a little different? So very curious. However, if you look at their AI journey, it's very profound in the way they did it. They took like 2 to 3 years of time, and they've taken time to build all the foundations. So if you see in the left side, that's where the data and technology foundations come in place. They did have the data and the volume. Now, in this case, if you look at real-time data points, they looked at things like bookings, competitors' pricing, historical demand, even weather. All those data are ingested, whether they use data lake or any kind of data source, into the pipeline, and that's what has help them to build a very adaptive pricing model that is going to cater towards who the customer is. I'm sure they're going to use a lot of customer data as well, that moves towards it. And if you look at the foundation, they did spend a lot of time on quality and governance. If you read their approach, and also more towards the infrastructure. Now this thing has to scale in terms of the whole US, or the domestic customers and the international customers that they serve. So if you look at the volume of requests that's going to come in, and the scale of operations, the machine learning model, and the scale, and the response time and the quickness should be matching with customers' expectation, and what the business needs to be. So that's where the scalable infrastructure and advanced ML ops, everything comes in. Now, if we move into the people and process side of things, how did Delta approach it? They definitely had a dedicated team of data scientists and ML engineers, and AI. Now, I don't think, based on the research that I have done, I don't think Delta has fully gone into LLM yet. But however, this can easily be a model that can extend it into an LLM, which is probably coming in the future as well. However, if you look into it, they did build a team. They have a cross-functional collaboration. This is where the leadership buy-in comes in, and they said, you know what, we are going to take this pricing approach that is very strategic to Delta's business goals and outcomes that they are trying to achieve. So having that kind of a leadership buy-in and having that collaboration, and the most important thing that I like them about is they went into a A/B testing mode to test and feedback and learn. Even the one that's launched now is probably launched to a small set of customers. And definitely they have also spent a lot of time moving in, focusing on the AI governance part of it. And when I say AI governance, you could see it's more around how do you test and train the model, how do you make ethical considerations, how do you make it more secure. I think security from an AI standpoint is a big topic, and it can be a topic of its own, which I won't dwell into today. However, those are all the complex pieces that needs to be solved within AI governance. Now, if we look into how things are unfolding in terms of AI maturity curve, I put it in the framework of crawl, walk, run, and fly phase. However, if you see it, the crawl is where most of the folks are. It's isolated project, it's a limited strategy, and it is siloed. Now, a lot of companies are trying to get into AI. I think the large companies may have a more sophisticated or a robust approach. However, a small to a mid-sized firms may be moving towards a model of let me try the small proof of concept, and then see how it works, and that's where the siloed and limited strategy is going to start. But again, AI is new. That may necessarily not be a wrong way. That is how any tech evolution takes place. Now, if you move into the walk part of it, this is where emerging some strategies are building, and there is definitely a leadership interest. And somebody from leadership is like, hey, we need to move into this. How is our data quality looking? How's our governance model looking? And then they are starting to think about it. And then they evolve into a run phase where there's a clear strategy, there's a clear cross-functional coordination, all the teams are in place, the skill sets are there, and then they are moving towards driving a consistent value. And then we talk about fly and transformative state. I don't think a lot of organizations are here unless you are a native AI kind of a company or you're a tech company. But from an industry standpoint, I think most of them would probably fit into crawl or walk phase, and very few on the run side of things. And that's where, if you look at the Delta's example here, if you see, I really like their approach of they had clear business goals. Now, if you see, they had a strategy in place, right? They obviously want to increase their revenue. They do want to definitely beat their competitors, and move more into customer satisfaction, offering more personalized and relevant. Now, customer satisfaction is going to come in if the pricing is more favorable for the customer, which is to be seen. However, they do have a very clear vision in terms of how they want to go. So if you see, there's a strategy, and there's a business goal and an outcome, and they have a use case. Now, if you map it to that maturity curve, they have AI embedded. It's not a separate project. It's deep into their pricing model, which is their core foundations, and it is also baked into the data that they acquired. It definitely has a competitive edge and a clear use case. And it is also about, one other thing I liked is, if you see Delta's use case, they didn't launch this big bang to all of their customers. So they are testing and learning. They started with a very few customer base, probably internal, tested the model, made sure everything is looking good, and then they are slow launching it and expanding it to a customer base, which shows the strategy in terms of how they are going to get into more of an operationalizing approach. And this shows where the industry is actually distributed. Like I said, most of the companies fit into crawl or walk phase, and very few in run. And for the folks on the call, I think it would be very beneficial, and I put together this matrix just to put some kind of a thought process into how do we want to evaluate AI, especially in my organization. And what the biggest challenge is, there is a lot of domains and a lot of functional areas, and there is a huge amount of interest and traction in AI. Now everybody, I wouldn't say everybody, majority of people want to do something in AI, and there's a lot of ideas stemming around. And if you look at ChatGPT and Gemini, they are launching so many new capabilities that you could either go platform-based route where you are building in your own AI model, leveraging LLM capabilities, or you rely on a platform or a product that's already baking in all those, and then how you use it. So if you look at it, there's so many ideas and thought processes in place. This is one way of prioritizing what are those strategic initiatives that will move towards AI, and what are the things that we consciously hold it back to see. So there are definitely, if you see, if there is high feasibility and low impact, then that's something you can call it as sorry, what I meant to say is, if there is a high impact and a low feasibility, then those could be operated as quick wins. Now in terms of long term bets, you definitely want to move towards something that has very high impacting, but the feasibility maybe too maybe low, so that you will take much more longer time. So those are your long term ones, and you definitely want to avoid that is low feasibility and low impact. And in this context, if it's so easy to do and it's going to provide a huge number of impact, then that would probably be first ones to try and delve and see how is the foundations operating, how is your team size looking, how is the governance model, and then you could take those initiatives at a much larger scale. Now, there are a couple more examples that I thought would be really good, and in this case, I showed like a difference to see what to do and what may be a good learning. This is not to showcase anyone. Obviously, Amazon is doing great, and they will continue to build great. But this is just a specific example to show. If you look at Walmart, they went into a whole demand forecasting model where they used historical sales and then the trends and obviously the weather patterns, and even listening to those social media and customer analytics from their app and web, and how customers walk into their stores and use their app in store, as well as how do they use it for their curbside or pickup. So there's a lot of data that they use to actually optimize inventory and accuracy. And if you see Walmart's recent results, they are showing a consistent upward trend in terms of their inventory levels and waste reductions and supply chain efficiency. Now, on the other side, like what you don't want to do, and in this case, and this is a little older from Amazon, is they launched an AI product listing model. Now, there's nothing wrong with failing. I think Amazon learns by failing. However, this is a use case to show that when they launched the product details leveraging AI, there was a lot of inaccurate information and misleading information, and then they had to actually take it down, and they went through iteration. Now, this is to showcase that if there is no right structure or governance and any kind of testing and accuracy or learning in place, then the results are going to be poor, and the adoption is not going to be great. So this is where I think companies would have to pay a lot of attention in terms of where they are moving and how they want to test and learn their models before launching it to customers. Those are the pretty big hitters that I had. I will check if there are any questions in the meantime. If you all want to post any questions, I'm happy to answer. However, I want to show one more quick thing. So I had two slides which will probably share as an immediate action plan. So something for this group as a takeaway. Especially with AI, there's a lot of things. So I thought we'll put together like a 6-step process on how would we want to go if you're, especially if you are at the stage of converting into action. There's a lot of talks, but then if you look at industry, how do you move from the strategy and idea towards execution? So there's an immediate action plan, as well as there's a quick AI readiness playbook on how do you focus on foundation, then move into expansion, maybe with like I said, low feasibility and high impact initiatives, and then move into an optimization and a scaled approach. So that's what I had for this session. Hopefully, it was helpful, and I also wanted to put some upcoming sessions out here for you in terms of what's coming up next. But I hope this was helpful to you all, and happy to take any questions that anybody would have in the chat. If not, this was great, and looking forward to connecting with you all in the future as well, and learning a lot. Oh, there are some. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was in the stage, and I missed a lot of questions, I guess. Okay, I'm going to go through the chat. However, from which LLM do you recommend? I think this is a great question. All LLMs are great, but in my experiences, and with what we are piloting and watching, uh, we do see OpenAI and Gemini to be little far more advanced. I think each LLM has its own benefits. Copilot is really good in terms of, if you have a existing Microsoft suite, and you're going to comb through a lot of documents that's in Microsoft, then Copilot is obviously very intelligent when you compare. So it all depends on the use case, and if you want any real-time data that's more latest in trend, then Google LLM is definitely beneficial. But overall, in terms of especially being a language model and being very powerful, OpenAI is obviously more mature than any of these. And then I'm combing through some of the other questions as well. Oh, there are a lot of people from Mexico and Dublin. Thank you for joining, in West London as well. Amazing. Can you share? Yes, I can definitely. Will probably find a way to share these slides. These are something that I just put together. So obviously, you're all free to share. Um, yeah, yes, you will receive recording. Okay, taken motion as well. Yep, I think, how do you measure that an organization is ready to move into next stage? What are the key parameters? I think that's a great question. It is going to definitely, I would say it relies on the KPIs and the use cases. So that's where identifying the use case and what's the business goal and the KPI is probably the best way to start. However, from an organization standpoint, in terms of readiness, I would say, uh, follow, if you can see from a data perspective, and probably build a checklist of, okay, from a data foundations, what are the things that's needed, and draw a maturity curve of whether it can be like a like a checkbox, or a scoring mechanism. And even from a people skill set, do you have the people skill set, or maybe you have vendors or partners who can augment your team. And then in terms of people, I would also say the biggest one is the leadership buy-in and the funding needs that you have. So I think following that framework and putting together some kind of a scoring model, and identifying would be a best way to see where you would want to move forward. How your team tests all this critical implementation? That's a great question. What we are doing right now, and even in the companies, in Dollar General that we work, we are in a POC stage as well. The way we do it is test and learn, and especially me being from digital and customer facing, the way we do is A/B testing, and then internal testing, and then launch it to a small set of audience, and then test and learn and get that feedback. And now, if you go into ML models, how do you get that feedback, and loop through your labeling, and then split test analysis, and then also how can you run it with previous sets of results, and then post sets of results? I think those would be really good ways for you to test. Can you walk through the AI adoption introduction cycle for a mid-sized business? I think that's a great question. I can probably, when we circulate this, I can probably put something for a mid-size organization besides large, and how do they need to adapt. For a mid-size organization, I think the key is going to be they are going to have a lack of resource or the lack of ability to scale, and even funding, to be honest. I think that's where what I would say is there are more platforms that they can leverage rather than building on their own. There are a lot of tech companies these days are heavily investing in AI and looking into it now. There needs to be a cost benefit analysis and ROI that needs to be driven through. However, this is a good feedback. Let me take it back and think through how a mid-size or a small to mid-size firms can actually move towards this phase. Are there industries that are ahead of others in actionable AI adoption, excluding tech companies? Amazing question. The industries that we are seeing is definitely a lot of traction in retail and healthcare. However, finance isn't lagging either. I think it's happening across travel and hospitality is also following. So it's going to be generally spread out. However, from where with LLM especially, where we are seeing the biggest traction is on content generation. Now, all of you know that chatbots are all over the place, and booking and information about products and personalization. So those are the ones that's being adapted so fast because LLM is naturally good in content generation. Now, where it is evolving now is moving into AI agents and automation. I think from a financial procurement standpoint, people are talking about how can you automate and run into those scenarios, and a lot of companies are doing it. But I would say the industry is right now in the forefront is more who are more B2C and customer facing, are those regardless of whether they are retail, healthcare, or finance, or travel, or any of those. Awesome. It was a great question. I really appreciate all of you taking time to attend my session. And if any of you have further questions, I would be happy to connect on LinkedIn and share. And if there is anything that you want to share, I'm a constant learner, and I would definitely continue to keep learning through the process. With that, thank you everyone, and the next session is here, and hope to connect with you all. And I will post my LinkedIn here as well. Thank you so much.